Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolutely wild ride of Indonesia's national airline, Garuda Indonesia. It's this incredible story of being on the edge of collapse and then pulling off a stunning reinvention. And the best part? We're going to see it all through the company's own words.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're going back to the mid-2000s, and this quote from the CEO's 2005 report really says it all. You've got fuel prices going crazy, inflation is rising, the local currency is getting weaker, and on top of all that, the Bali bombing. It wasn't just one thing, it was a perfect storm, a total cascade of crises hitting them all at once. And all that pressure? It translated directly into this. Just a staggering number. A net loss of almost 700 billion rupiah. Now, this wasn't just a bad quarter or a tough year. We're talking about an existential threat here. This was the kind of number that pushes a company right to the very edge of going out of business.
So this period was an absolute low point for them. It forced everyone, not just the people running the airline, but the entire country, to ask a really fundamental question. Could their flagship airline even survive this? Well, when you're facing total collapse, you have to act fast. And their response was incredibly decisive. A brand new management team was brought in, and their job wasn't just to, trim some costs here and there. No, they had a clear mandate. Execute a complete turnaround, one of the most ambitious the industry had ever seen. So, what was the game plan? How do you even begin to fix something this broken? Well, the strategy they came up with was about way more than just cutting costs. It was this multi-pronged approach to totally rebuild the airline from the ground up. The new leadership basically broke it down into these three crucial pillars. First things first, fix the money. That meant aggressive debt restructuring. Pillar 2, win back the trust of passengers. And how do you do that? You completely overhaul service and safety. And finally, Pillar 3, think long-term. Secure the future by getting the company ready for an IPO, an initial public offering.
Okay, a plan is one thing, but execution is everything. And this is where it gets really interesting, seeing how they actually put this plan into action. This wasn't just talk in a boardroom. This was about taking real, concrete steps to transform their reputation.
And you can see just how direct their approach was. They had these huge challenges, right? International safety concerns? They went out and got the ISA certification in 2008. That's the absolute gold standard for safety in the airline world. An outdated service concept? They launched the Garuda Indonesia experience in 2009, which was all about showcasing Indonesian hospitality. An aging fleet of planes? They kicked off a massive program to bring in new modern aircraft. Problem, solution. It was that targeted. So, after all that incredibly hard work, did it actually pay off? Well, the initial results were, wow, nothing short of dramatic, really. Get this, their financial turnaround was so successful, it didn't just save the company, it started winning international awards. I mean, this quote from the board says it all. This wasn't just a local comeback story anymore. The global financial world was sitting up and taking notice. It was a huge signal that the airline was stable and credible again. And here's the proof in the numbers. The strategy absolutely worked. In just 4 years, they flipped a massive 688 billion rupiah loss into a profit of over 1 trillion rupiah. Just think about that swing. It was this incredible turnaround that paved the way for them to go public in 2011, hitting that huge long-term goal they had set.
But in the airline business, calm seas don't last long. The years after the IPO were a complete roller coaster. As you can see here, profits would swing to major losses and then right back again. Global economic headwinds, fierce competition, it just meant the fight was far, far from over.
And that whole cycle of crisis and recovery, it was about to be tested like it had never, ever been tested before, by something that would change the entire world. Yep, the COVID-19 pandemic. It brought global travel to a screeching halt. For Garuda, this was a body blow. And once again, the airline found itself in a desperate fight just to survive. This time, the fix would have to be even bigger and more complex than the last one. The whole recovery process this time hinged on this key legal term, homologation. Now, what is that? Think of it as a court-approved peace treaty. It was this legal process that was absolutely essential for getting hundreds of different creditors, we're talking everyone from the people they lease planes from to state-owned companies, to all agree on a single, legally binding plan to move forward.
And the result, which was finalized in 2022, was just this massive financial reset. Look at these numbers. Over $9 billion in debt was restructured. The process basically wiped billions off their books, which gave the airline the critical breathing room it needed to get back in the air.
So, after weathering yet another incredible storm, Garuda is once again looking to the future. And the strategy probably sounds familiar by now. It's all about renewal and smart strategic growth. That means adding more fuel-efficient planes, exploring new partnerships, and really focusing on the domestic and international routes that actually make financial sense.
You know, when you look at Garuda's story, all documented through its own reports, it just shows that in this industry, resilience isn't a one-time thing. It's not like you fix it and you're done. It's this constant, grueling cycle of adopting, managing crises, and completely reinventing yourself. And it really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In an industry that's just defined by constant crisis, what does it really take for a legacy airline to secure its future? Maybe, just maybe, the ultimate advantage isn't being the biggest or fastest, but simply having the ability to survive and transform over and over again.